Hey everybody, this is DJ, and I wanted to go through a couple of things that you can do using the Home 123 CRM, which is the back end of the technology that we offer that allows you to do some interesting marketing pieces, or strategies rather, for your business. So and by the way, the front end of the Home 123 website is the website itself, which you can use to market to clients. So what we're going to focus on in this particular video is how to do some neat stuff on the back end to automate and maybe enhance some of your marketing efforts. So we're going to go ahead and just start by logging in. So remember, the easiest way to log in is you're just going to go to kaletools.com. And then where you might think you'd click on broker area because you are brokers. Not everyone in the country is considered a broker who is in real estate. So it's actually the agent area. So that's a little easy thing to get confused on. If you try to log into broker, it probably won't work. So you click on the agent area. And then if you don't know your login, it is almost certainly your MLS ID for the username. So I'm going to log into one of our brokers accounts. And unless you've changed it, it is probably the password as well. So username and password are usually your MLS ID. If it does not work for you and you've never logged in before, shoot me an email and I can take a quick look at dj@kalerealty.com. Otherwise, that should work. But if it doesn't work at all, or you could have changed it, of course, as well. But if you can always click forget your password. But it's possible that you wouldn't have an account. Sometimes with brokers who just passed their exam, when they come over, it takes a little bit longer to set up your account. So it's possible you don't have one, but we can set one up for you in just a few seconds in the event that happens. So just shoot me an email if you can't log in. But anyway, let's go ahead and log in. Now this is not mine. This is one of our brokers, Kian Kun. So I'm going to show you a couple things. So this is the back end of the of the CRM. Let's click on dashboard for a second. Okay. This you ultimately can use once you start to integrate some of the other strategies and tools that are here. So we're going to avoid dashboard for now, just because it really, for the purposes of this video, isn't going to be super relevant. Let's just go through these tabs at the top just to give you an idea of what these are. Direct promotions, which we will get into very shortly. This has to do with some marketing tools that you can use for your properties. And I even made a video on how to use this for properties you don't yet have the listing for. So check out that other video, which should be under Kale Training if you click on the broker website section. WebWorks has to do with customizing the front end of this tool, which is the client-facing website. So if you want to edit the website and sort of make it your own and add photos and content, you can do that here. We're not going to go through that today in this video. It's pretty self-explanatory. You can kind of go through and edit various pages and write content and make it your own in the way that you think best reflects your personality. Also, remember, you can always purchase a domain. I have an article on how to integrate that domain with the Home 123 system, which is also on Kale Training. So if you wanted to buy djparisrealestate.com, you can likely do that on at a registrar. Usually it's just a couple of dollars for the first year, and then maybe every year after that, maybe $10 to $12. So it's pretty reasonable. But if you wanted to buy a URL, you can do that and then integrate it with this. And of course, we can help if you can't get it integrated. It's real easy. But go ahead and buy a domain, for a few bucks. Certainly, I think that's worth it. Okay, contacts. This is pretty self-explanatory. These are your contacts. We're going to be going through this just in a moment to give you an idea of what you can do with this. And listings. I'll pause on listings for just a second because I want to come right back to it. But what listings is of course all of the listings you currently have. Now, this particular broker, Kian Kun, has quite a few listings. Let's see, I don't know, maybe around 20? I don't know, I can't count, but somewhere around 20. Now, how did it get these listings? Well, the good news is, actually, let me get back to this. I'm already starting to get too involved here. But these are all the listings Kian Kun has on the MLS. So let's just put a pin in that for 2 seconds. We'll come right back. Close More University is the last tab here on the upper right. And this is a resource to watch videos, to read articles directly from Home 123 on how to use their system. Also, there's a support mechanism there in the event that you need help. Really, they're the best people to go to, and they have a support team. They're very easy to get a hold of, and very willing and able to assist. So, you know, it can always Closemore University is just their knowledge base portal for all their videos and training and stuff. Okay, let's go back to listings. So how did Kian Kun get all of these listings in the MLS? Well, he didn't. So that's one of the coolest parts of this system. How did they get in there? Well, they pull all of these listings directly from the MLS. So I don't know how it does it, but it does every single day. I believe twice a day, but at least once a day. The system will scan your MLS ID and look for new listings. And when it finds one, it's instantly going to create a list, you know, this record of it here, but also pull all of the data from the MLS into this to create a single page website. So I'm just going to randomly select this one and let's click view. Okay, so this single page website, and if you notice, Kian Kun has not put his photo in here. Normally his photo would show up there. He hasn't done that yet, but this is what it looks like. And by the way, this is our sponsor for this system. It's a very expensive system, and this is the reason we can provide this is the good people at Neighborhood Loans, for example, are sponsoring that. So you'll see a little ad for their lending rates on each page, and we ask you to please be understanding of that, which is to say we could not afford these tools without a sponsor. So we're grateful to have them, but I'm going to show you all sorts of cool things you can do. So it creates this single page website. Now look at this URL. It's a crazy long URL, right? It's like, what can you do with this? Well, I'm going to show you what you can do with this, because certainly copying and pasting this into emails you can do, but there's better and cooler strategies for what to actually do with this. But the first thing to note is this is going to be instantly created for every single listing you have. And this is also mobile friendly. So even though you're not going to type that into your mobile device, I'm going to show you how to look at that. But this is going to be instantly created on every single property that hits the MLS. Okay, let's go back into the system. By the way, if you don't see your listings here and you have some, you can always click MLS update and it'll manually force a refresh. And if they still aren't coming up, it means that we have the wrong MLS ID for you, which is pretty rare, but it could happen. So if you don't see that, let us know and we'll take a look in the back end and see maybe if your MLS ID changed or something. Okay, so let's go back to that Pope John Paul listing. Okay, so let's say this is our something we want to market right now. I want to do some neat stuff with this. Like, okay, what do we do with this? What do we do with that website? What can we use this system for? How do I, help maybe, help get this property marketed more effectively? Okay, so that's a good start. So remember, it's 2900 West Pope John Paul II. So what we're going to do, oh, and by the way, I made a video that you can look at called Best Listing Presentation Ever, because you'll notice, what if you don't have any listings? What can you do? Well, don't worry, there is kind of some cool stuff you can do, and I made a video showing you how to use this exact tool to get a listing, which might sound a little strange. So if you notice, there's this little plus button here, and in that plus button you can actually manually enter a listing. Now, why would you want to do that? Well, you may want to do that for a listing you don't yet have that you're trying to win over. Why would you do that? Well, because you can show the seller very quickly, and probably within about a 2-minute period of actually creating this, you can actually show them what this would do and what it would look like if they were to list with you. And so I made a whole video on how to do that. It's about 30 minutes long. It's really worth your time because it's very unique and I think would separate you from all the other brokers out there who are trying to wow this particular seller. It's certainly something that nobody else will have done. Okay, but you can watch that video if you want. It's called Best Listing Presentation Ever. Just search for it in Kale Training. All right, but we already have a listing in this scenario. So what do we do with it? All right, we're gonna go to direct promotions. Okay. I'm gonna go through a few options here, so stay with me. And this is all pretty simple, but I don't wanna overwhelm you with all the different variations here because there are a lot. So a couple of these things I'm just going to skip over because they won't be super relevant to this conversation. So for example, smart print, I'm not going to talk about. Marketing drip, I am going to talk about. That has to do with emailing clients and prospects. Lists, I'll talk about. Social media, I'll briefly mention, and a few other things. I'll probably skip these. So let's say, okay, what is a direct promotion? Well, let's find out. The first thing we're going to do is create a marketing code. So we're going to click on the plus button. You might say, what is a marketing code? Well, a marketing code is a trigger to the system that you can market to your clients about how they can get information about this property. So probably the most simple way to describe this, and you can do this a few different ways, I'm just going to give you the most direct way, is think of it, let's do it as a text code. Okay, what that means is you see this phone number at the top, this 312 number. This is your phone number, not to ring to your phone, but to trigger for these text codes. So what this is what this can be used for is you can create these marketing codes and put them on signs. So let's just give a really specific example. Let's say every time somebody walked by this particular listing, we're going to have on the sign in the yard, we're going to have this text code listed that says text, and let's just come up with, it could be anything numeric or alphanumeric. Let's just say text, I don't know, let's see, Johnny, we're going to create that, which is kind of a strange one, but we'll just go ahead and, it could be a number, it could be any word, it can be anything, right? Now, if someone's already used that marketing code for their own purposes, it'll tell you, hey, you can't use that, someone else is already using it, but no one's used Johnny yet, right? So you might want to just use even like the number of the place, like 2900, but whatever. So now we've created this marketing code. So what we can do on the sign out front, if there is a sign, is we could say text Johnny to, and this 312 number, okay? So I'm going to get really specific about how this works. So choose link type. You don't have the option to change that, so don't worry. Choose agent. You don't have the option to change that. That's you. Choose agent link type. Now, technically, you could do some other things with this, but we're just going to put it as agent listing. So there's other options that probably wouldn't appeal. They're sort of more advanced and likely to be things you might not even use. So we're just going to leave it as agent listing. Now we have to choose the listing because we want to associate Johnny with that address. So that's this one, right? So there we go. Now it's going to say choose your voice system option. Okay. So what this means is if somebody calls this number, this 312 number, and then types in Johnny, because when you call that, it's an automated system, it says put in your marketing code, right? And so the person would type in on their phone, Johnny. Well, then you could have a couple of things happen. So let's go through each option. You can forward the call to profile number. What that means is the phone number we have on file for you. You can check it in your settings, your number essentially. And then that way, when they type in Johnny, it rings right to your phone, which is pretty cool, right? Or if you say, well, I use a different phone, you can always type in that phone number, right? Okay. Or you can record a voice message. So you could say, hey, thanks for showing interest in this property, and here's all the cool things about it, and please, let me know if you want to learn more, right? So you can actually record a voice message, and then you can play it back to make sure it sounds okay. So you can always record a message. So if somebody calls in, types in the word Johnny, they get that recorded voicemail from you. Or if you don't want to read, if you don't like your voice, the system will actually read it for you. Now notice this system has automatically pulled in, I think this is the agent remarks, or the listing remarks, whatever. So it automatically pulls this, but you could certainly type in one if you want it to be a more automated voice and then not your own. I would say use your own, but that's pretty cool in case you're shy about reading. Okay, so this has to do with if somebody calls that phone number and types in the word Johnny, right? I would probably just have it forward to my phone number because I would want to talk to that person, but that's up to you. Now, you don't have to tell people on the sign you're putting on the yard to call that number, right? You might not want to, or you might want to, but the bottom line is if they call that number, type in the word Johnny, it's going to go to you, okay? Select marketing use. This is more just for purposes of categorizing this particular lead or code rather. So you can do this. It doesn't really, it's not really super applicable to what we're doing here. And then leads assigned to, if you wanted to assign them to another broker, which would probably not be super common, but you could. In this case, we're going to default it to Kian Kun because it is his listing and he would want those leads, I'm sure. But let's say you're going out of town and you do get leads this way, right? You might want to say, hey, Mr. or Mrs. So-and-so broker, can I get my leads over to you in the next few weeks because I'm going to be out of town. I need somebody to follow up with, so you can always do that as well. So it's pretty cool. All right. Now, I know I spent a little bit of time on this voice system option, and but odds are, unless you tell somebody to call that number, they may not call it. So if they call it and they type in Johnny, in this case, it's going to call right to Kian Kun. But I'm going to show you a different thing they can do, which is a text. So this also is a text code. So I'm just going to click create. Oh, I do have to change the select the marketing use. So let's say this is for my yard sign. So this text code is going to be on my yard sign. Create. Okay, shows this cool little QR code. So you can always put a QR code on your sign as well, which acts the same as the typing in the word Johnny to that 312 number. So if you want to put the QR code on the sign, you certainly can, right? You can save it. You can print it. It's even got a link to it. I probably wouldn't use it myself, but QR codes are pretty cool. So feel free to put those on the sign. But I would just put text Johnny to that number on the sign, okay? So what does that do? So you have to, this is a little bit of theater of the mind here. So I'm going to, there's no real easy way to show this to you. So I want you just to imagine with me what will happen. So we automatically know that if somebody calls into that 312 number, this number at the top here, and types in the word Johnny, it's going to get forwarded to my cell phone in real time, which is a good thing. But that might not be the way I'm marketing this text code, because what are the odds somebody's going to pick up the phone and call you? I don't know, probably pretty low, right? But it's certainly possible and certainly something to do. But what if in the rider on the sign, instead of writing call 312-313-1550 and type in Johnny, what if you wrote text Johnny to 312-313-1550? Now again, I can't show this to you, so you just have to imagine it, but it's pretty cool. What'll happen if somebody texts in Johnny to that number is that prospect who's looking at the sign, texting it in, they're instantly going to get texted back with a link to that mobile-friendly website, that single-page website that I showed you at the very beginning, that was automatically created for this listing, which is pretty cool, right? So somebody walks by, they're like, hey, I want to get more information. I don't really want to call yet, but let me text in just so I get more info. Well, that's important. They get that immediate website with all the pictures and all the info. You, as the broker, get you get texted as well instantly, right? So again, hard to show this to you without like changing this and using a camera to show you my phone. But if you were to look at my phone, the moment I texted in Johnny to that number, a prospect texted it in. Me, if I was the broker, I would instantly get texted back with that person's phone number saying, hey, this phone number just showed interest in 2900 West Pope John Paul II, right? And there'd be a link to it. Now, what would the link be for? Well, the link will take you directly into this back-end system right from your phone, directly into the contact of basically the person who just texted in. So how does it do that? Well, if you think about it, what do we know at this moment when this person texts in? What does the system know? The only thing we know is the person's phone number. They texted in, so all we have is their phone number, and I think we also know the carrier that they use, so it's like AT&T or whatever. But that's all we know. So what the system does that is really super impressive and totally behind the scenes and instant is it scans various databases to try to identify that phone number to a real human being. So what it does is it looks at Twitter and Facebook and maybe LinkedIn. I'm not sure all the different networks it checks, but it checks at least Twitter and Facebook. And it sees if it can identify that phone number to one of their accounts. Okay. So depending on the way the person's got their privacy settings set up, most people don't have their privacy settings to not be linked that way. So most of the time it's going to positively ID that phone number to an account. What's cool about it is whatever it finds, whatever it can positively ID, and by the way, it doesn't just look at Twitter and Facebook, it also scans public record databases and tries to ID this person and get their name, their information, where they live, and this, their Facebook account if it can find it, Twitter, etc. So all this happens within a matter of seconds. So the person, let's go back through the workflow. Like, how does this work? Somebody walks by your property, sees this text code thing that says text Johnny to whatever. They text it, they instantly get texted back with that single page website, and about 2 seconds later, you get texted with all of their information. Well, actually a link to all of their information. It doesn't send you all of that on the text message notification, but it says, hey, here's the phone number that's interested. Click here to learn more about this person. You click there, it goes right into this system, and you would see, assuming it could find this person's Facebook and Twitter and all of that, and their home address, shows you all of that. So if you think about it, it's pretty cool because it gives you a lot of information potentially about this person, so that when you call them, now I wouldn't necessarily pick up the phone and say, hey, I see that you live at such an, that might be a bit much for a phone call, but you at least know a little bit of information about this person and can maybe have a more sort of complicated or comprehensive phone call versus just, hey, I saw you were interested in this unit, tell me about yourself. Well, you might still want to say that, but you'll have more information. So anyway, a little bit of theater of the mind there, but you can sort of see how it works. So again, what did we really do here? We created a text code and we would put it on a rider, right? So whatever sign company you're using, you would contact them and say, hey, I want to put text Johnny to 312, whatever. And then anytime somebody walks by, they text it, they get texted back with that single page website. You instantly get texted with all of their information, and you can reach out to them and hopefully get a showing or help them find another property they want to buy. So that was what I wanted to go through in this video. The next video I'm going to go through, we'll be talking about the marketing drip. So look for that video here shortly, and see you on the next one.